What do you remember most about where you lived as a child?
I remember how all the houses were in rows because it was a camp town. It's McClure, Virginia, and it was Ritter Lumber Company had moved in and built all these company houses, and they were perched on the hillside, and that's what I remember most, and how everything was bustling. I mean, there were a lot of people, there was a lot of activity going on. It was just humming. And it's kind of sad when I go back there now because it's just haunting. It's just like a ghost town, basically.
How would you describe the community you lived in?
Bustling. There was a post office, there was a store, there was a company had built like a general purpose place where they would have concerts and plays and things like that. Everybody knew everybody else and their business. But that's how the town was. And of course, when I would go and stay with my grandmother, she lived in Fremont, which was just a few miles down the road, up on what they call Big Branch. And that was a little bit more out in the country, kind of isolated. They lived on a subsistence farm. They just farmed chickens and hogs and things that they needed. They didn't produce for mass sales or anything, but they had a milk cow and, of course, the garden. So that's it was more rural. And when you went to McClure, where we lived, my mom and dad and my sister, it was more like a little community.
How did people treat you when they learned about where you were from?
Well, they have these stereotypical views of what people from Appalachia are like. Hillbillies, that twang, say that word again. I know I went to Knoxville, to UT, and you would have thought I'd moved to California the way they would say, oh, you say, reach me that instead of hand me that. And, it was Knoxville, for goodness sakes. It wasn't like a big metropolis here. But as people got to know me, they knew that I wasn't some backward hillbilly, but that's how we're perceived, all of us.
So what would you say were what was the main stereotype that people have in mind whenever they think of Southern Appalachia?
Probably backward, uneducated. I know I had cousins that had moved to Michigan, and they would come back and make fun of the way I talked, and I had better grammar than they did. They used double negatives galore, and I thought, but they just perceived you as a group of backwoods people that ate squirrels and moonshined, and not everybody fit that description. Of course, I had some moonshiners in my family.
What do you want people to know about Southern Appalachia? If you could tell those people something instead of the stereotypes.
Well, I would tell them we probably had a richer life than they've experienced, really, because we learned to appreciate the land. Of course, the lumber company, Ritter Lumber Company, and the mining industry moved in and ravaged the land, and until they passed laws for reclaiming, they just left the countryside scarred. And those were outsiders. Those weren't Appalachian people that were doing that. But we're very multi-dimensional is what I would want people to know.
Well, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Well, she'll be coming around.
I'm gonna leave that in there.